Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I am joined with the gentleman, as always. We got Keelan. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. I'm over here. My camera got knocked over, and I'm currently fixing it. But other than that, I'm doing well. Glad to be
All
here.
right.
Definitely ready to do this review.
Yeah, don't let my ugly mug be the only thing on the screen, or else
No,
people will
I got
run
you.
away. So,
I got you.
and we got Mike here. What's going on, man?
Man, just ready to get into this particular one.
So exciting. So exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Netflix movie, well, a Chilean movie that's on Netflix called El Conde. So if you enjoy this content and want to see us do more of it, please hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button. It would really help us out. We're trying to build out that audience, and we can't do it without your help. So if you enjoy what we do here at Screen Time Continuum, please help us out with a thumbs up and a subscription. It would really mean a lot to us. Again, we're going to be talking about El Conde tonight. It's on Netflix. It's been out for a few weeks, so I don't know if we'll have to do a spoiler report, but I do have the information here. It's directed by Pablo Larraín, and it's written by Guillermo Calderón and Pablo Larraín, and it stars Jaime Vidal, Gloria, Munchmeyer, Alfredo Castro, also Paula Luschsinger, Stella Gonnet, and Catalina Guerra. And the tagline or synopsis for this movie is, after living 250 years in this world, Augusto Pinochet, who is not dead but an aged vampire, decides to die once and for all. More notably, this movie is in black and white, so there's a heavy stylistic choice here. It came out September 15th. Country of origin is Chile again. So this is a subtitled movie and also a dubbed movie, which helps us who are not native Spanish speakers. And yeah, let's just jump right into it, guys. Let's get our first impressions. Keelan, what did you think about this movie, El Conde?
What did I think about this movie? Originally, I did not realize that it was... when I saw the trailer, I should say, I did not realize that this movie was parody-based on real events and a real person.
Mm-hmm.
Or real people, more than one real person. When I understood that, I took a step back, and then I got into it. And I was, I think like in the first 10 minutes is when I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here. Stylistically, the black and white I thought was very interesting. I thought it was a great choice. When I watched the trailer originally, I was like, it's black and white. We don't get that too often. But I also thought it would be a little funnier from the trailer. The trailer had more of
comedic.
I can't put my finger on it, but it had more of that dry humor feel to it. And that it didn't quite hit that. It had some moments. But other than that, I did like this. This was an interesting, very interesting movie. And yeah, I wanted to watch it. We watched it. I'm not even the one who chose it. We reviewing it. Here we are. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. This was Mike's choice, so everybody can blame him for it. Mike, why don't you give your first impressions?
Why is there blame? Honestly, entertained but confused. I didn't know it was based off of real people. I know they had, well, as far as the main character, I realized later on that some of these people were well, besides the French stuff, were based on real people. So I was like, okay, so is this taking like an actual historical view on this movie? And I was like, okay, but I didn't realize that Pinoche or the captain was actually supposed to be based on a real person. I didn't realize that. That's
His
something I
real
just
wife's
learned
name.
just now, right now.
The wife is
Yes.
his real wife's name too.
Okay, see, I didn't know that. Okay,
I didn't really look into the kids' names, but I probably should have or could have.
it makes sense though, because it seemed to touch on some real world business. Because I was sitting there like, these are people who are justifying what they're doing in a real way, like real people probably would, and they absolutely are what I think they are.
Delusion.
And we'll get into all the details, so that'll make sense later, folks. So don't hold that one against me. But I just didn't want to, jump ahead and spoil the movie. But like I said, entertained but confused.
Okay.
And meaning I did enjoy it. I just don't know how to really feel about it other than that. So I look forward to getting into it and getting smart people's opinions.
Well, you're fresh out of luck. We're out of smart people back here. Sorry.
We got some comments.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't necessarily dislike the movie. I do have an issue with black and white movies for the sake of being black and white. I think that they kind of lean a little bit too much on that as a stylistic choice that is usually taken by the audience as automatically deeper than it is. I don't necessarily think that there's anything intrinsically deep about black and white, except for the contrasts that you can play with. This movie does a little bit of that. It does a little bit of trying to create nice vistas or sort of create atmosphere, which I think it does okay, but just on the face of it being black and white to me isn't that impressive. I felt like the story was not terrible. It could have, like Keelan said, been funnier. I feel like maybe the language barrier made us not get some of the jokes that could have been landing for Spanish speaking people. But at this point, like, I think that the story is kind of weak. I think there's an entire storyline here that could be cut out, and a movie that I would have been more interested in watching is the 5 children fighting over the wealth of the family as the father is deciding to die, which is kind of in this, but then that takes a back seat to something else, which is
confusing.
Not just confusing, but entirely unnecessary. So there's one character, I mean, 2 characters, but there's one main character in this movie that just doesn't even need to be in the movie.
Agreed.
And I think it would have been better if she wasn't in the movie. So we'll get into that. But yes, not disappointed in the movie, but not overwhelmingly positive about it. So I'm kind of feeling a little bit of both things right now.
I think those points you just made are why I was confused. Because the character I know you're talking about, there's absolutely no point in them being in there.
No.
That's funny. We all agree on that, and we don't have to speak it out loud. That's crazy.
Right. Well, there's really 2. There's one that's the one that comes at the end is definitely tacked on, but the one that's in the movie.
Don't you do that to me?
Right. Oh no.
I think that's what contributes to my confusion. Like I said, entertained but confused. Like, why is this person even a part of this? What role did they serve?
I have a reason, but let's get off that.
Okay, let's get into it then.
Because the reason is one of the reasons I could not like this movie.
Yikes.
Yeah. I also think that you really have to understand, like you guys sort of mentioned, the political implications of all this to get the satire, because this is heavily based on Pinochet, which was a Chilean general that overthrew the government and became sort of an autocrat. And did a lot of stuff. He was a very anti-communist guy and basically purged Chile of the socialists and communists. So yeah, you kind of have to understand all of that to get like the wry sense of humor that might be going on with, like the family sort of explaining away all of their atrocities and things like that. Like maybe that's where the humor is supposed to be. But if you're not versed in that history, then it kind of isn't. You don't catch it.
Yeah, it comes off as really just dry conversation
Right.
and justification.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. All
Which
right.
is
Well,
also still has its level of comedy, but
it does.
again, I
Yeah.
think Nick, when you said the thing about the language barrier, I didn't consider that, even though I knew this was a dubbed movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very good point, and this is one of those films actually where that jumps off the screen. Like, man, if I spoke the native language of this film, I'd probably even be getting more out of this.
Like one I can definitely tell is when Pinochet he doesn't usually, but he says many times in this movie, such a pain. And I feel like if that was Spanish using the Spanish colloquialism, it would be funny because it's just like his answer to everything. I'm just
I
such
think
a pain, too bothered
yeah.
to, yeah.
I think it's like basically saying everything is a pain in the ass.
Pretty much, yeah. All right, well, Keelan, you're our Sherpa, so
Lead us up the
lead us.
mountain.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get my cantina because my
There you
throat
go.
is dry.
Drier than this movie, but I'm bummed.
Well, yeah.
Also, one more before we start. This movie leans a little bit too heavy on narrative, and there's a lot of explaining what's happening without the movie actually showing you.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of is a little bit rough too.
Well, that while it's rough, I think that's going to make it easier to get through the story, but it's not going to make for much of a detailed story, and that's not usually fun for us. But
that's true, because there's a lot of backstory and exposition that happen, but if you actually hit the beats, not a whole lot happens in this movie.
Right, exactly. And to me, that was kind of the fun part of watching the movie, but it made me very curious with 5 pages of notes how we were going to talk about it, because I can't read 5 pages of notes. We know how long we'll be here for that.
Yep.
But the movie opens with a monologue that tells you about the Count and not about him necessarily in the former as who he was at first. It begins at first by telling us his taste for blood, which is that he basically prefers English blood because it has a floral bouquet. And I wrote it down. Hold on. He prefers the English blood because it has the blood of Romans and the skin of Vikings. Basically, he could taste the heroism and the conquering in it. But when it came to the South American blood, it was the blood of the workers, and it was very acrid. It had a dogged smell, a plebeian bouquet that lingers on the tongue for weeks is what it was described as. This is literally the intro monologue before we know who the guy is. And to me, that set the tone for, mind you, by this point, I knew that it was political satire or parody. That immediately set the tone. I was like, oh.
He's a blood snob.
Yes. Well, I mean, the underlying tones here are definitely the conflict between the communists and the fascists in Chile and also around the world, because apparently we can only evolve to understand 2 types of philosophies, and it's either we're full-blown communists or we're full-blown fascists. So,
which apparently on both ends you're racist.
You know, the irony of that is that everybody's fighting over the ideologies of a couple dead Germans. I mean, honestly, like, really? What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's not the laugh I was supposed to have live on air. That's why I had to go.
Right.
But you're right. Dang, I want to comment more on that. So we get the sense of what he prefers. And to me, it's like painting him as a wine connoisseur, right? Like there's certain types of wine drinkers. And if you understand that statement alone, I don't have to say anything more. If you don't understand that statement, there's certain types of beer drinkers. There's the guy who drinks PBRs, and then there's the guy that drinks double IPAs. That's kind of what they're painting here.
It's also again a nod to his fascistic nature, because you're talking about things like ethnic cleansing by favoring the Anglo blood or the Aryan blood and not liking the working class South American blood because it tastes like,
Well, And he says
The
something a
working
little bit
class.
later, which I don't think will hurt anything to say now. He says something a little bit later, which is he needs workers and slaves, so to speak. So yeah, you can't eat too many of those. Can't bleed them dry. But yeah, so we then get the story that this all began centuries ago in the middle of France, where a young boy named Claude Pinochet was raised in or stayed for 20 years in an orphanage because no one wanted to adopt him. And we find out that he becomes a soldier. He gets drunk. He's exposed as a bloodsucker. You know, he bit a lady on the neck. And I thought that was a very open way to introduce the vampirism into the movie immediately, where it's like this is just a part of his life. To him, it's normal. He ain't thinking nothing about it. And because he got drunk, he had a little bit of a uncontrollable moment. Excuse me.
Now, is he just too young to turn that woman?
Well,
The
that's
question is,
never
did he
really
turn
hashed
her or
out.
did he just bleed her dry and kill her?
No,
Well,
because
no,
she's
she
standing
survived.
there. Yeah.
Oh,
She
okay. Well,
survived
she
because
might still be out there somewhere.
well, no, because he killed all of them because they confronted him when he was in the hospital,
Oh, that's true. That's true.
and he bashed that one chick's
That was
whole head
probably
in
her.
with the mallet, probably. But they don't really flesh out exactly if there's any kind of protocol for turning a person to a vampire.
Well, and
They
that's
don't
what
even They don't even flesh out how he became one necessarily, because I know what happens later on. I know
right.
they kind of try to explain that away, but wouldn't that then mean that as a kid he would just been going around killing people?
And that I did think of, but we also saw him still eating regular food through the movie.
Yeah, there's no real rules to the van. They're
Well,
also out in the daylight.
they were saying that they were adding to his food.
Right, but they're also out in the daylight, so they're not
Yeah,
really playing. They're not
right.
playing by the vampire rule.
And they're
True
also
that.
doing that as he's an old man.
You know, that makes me wonder too, because each culture has a form of vampire in it. And I'm wondering,
Yeah.
is this the Chilean version of vampirism?
Maybe.
Perhaps. Well, and also keep in mind that when he got caught up was when he was a drunken soldier. So he's already a
Right.
grown adult. He's already out on his own doing things, and he was drunk. So I think that the assumption here is he's maybe done things in the past, but we're not going to discuss it. He's gained control, and then he made a mistake. Here we are now.
Again, like I think that if we try to fill in gaps, the only answer really is that this is a anti-fascist movie. And so any qualities that Pinochet has himself is because he's a fascist. So he is a vampire because he's a fascist. And there was another character in this movie who they've been claiming was a fascist for at least 60, 70 years now. And she's also a vampire. So I don't think we can dig deeper into the vampire lore because it's just like, oh, fascist, therefore vampire.
It's a vehicle for fascism.
Right. Because they suck the blood out of, humanity
Society.
And all of that stuff. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You know what? That is man, great read.
We got to stop. Yeah. We got to stop making these people's movies for them.
Yeah, but they just got to stop being so obvious about their political leanings. Like
I'm gonna say in this particular one though, Mike, and that's
I get it.
No, I think it's more just to say it for the listeners,
right?
In this particular one, I think that's such the overarching point that you kind of have to discuss it.
It's undeniable too, and really it kind of diminishes any of the vampiric lore that might be interesting about the story, and it kind of diminishes a lot of the story too, because most of the character that I was mentioning before, most of her purpose is to reinforce that fascism is bad. And I'm not saying that it's good, but I just we don't need to hear it every 5 seconds about how the fascists are bad. The fascists are bad.
Yeah, because she was just evil.
And just make no mention of the Marxists and the communists,
right?
Unless they're
being victimized.
Yeah, they're the victims.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
Because communism never killed anyone.
I do want to say I think it's interesting. And maybe this has always happened, and just as I'm getting older, I'm noticing it more. But tragedies in other places turn into entertainment somewhere else. Even that whole situation, and you have things where it's like somebody will, we have the internet nowadays, so somebody can have some internet sensation, viral situation happen to them, and the next thing you know, there's an hour and 15-minute movie made about it on somebody's platform. And I think those kind of things is what sparked them being able to make films like these. And then when it comes over here to America, we don't know anything the better. Like, honestly, if Nick didn't know as much as he knows about politics in general, to apply to this, we probably wouldn't have the depth of conversation on the political side. It would just be entertainment to us.
Basically, you can just envision Pinochet as Hitler, and you'll get the same effect.
Right.
Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I have a
similar effect. I mean, Hitler obviously committed a lot more murders, but
Pinochet all dictators around the world, all of them.
So watch. Yeah. What's funny is what I was going to say is that person I actually likened him to is the person that I'm about to bring up next, because after he wakes up after his drunken moment, claiming he don't know what happened, he's never done that before. Basically, you realize he's in a convent. They're nuns. They're not prostitutes. But he wakes up and kills them all because they're like, "Oh, I caught you," and they got a stake. Like, "Hey, where'd you get a metal stake from?" "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, let me kill you real quick." You know too much. Time to get you up out of here. Which that right there let me know he wasn't the only vampire, and vampires have existed. But they got a blade team. Sorry, that was funny on my head. But so he was around for King Henry, which at that point, that's who I was already likening him to. Like, okay, maybe he's a King Henry type, right? But he was around for that era. So it's like, okay, so he witnessed and saw that level of King Henry, Mary Antoinette. He already saw this level of atrocity. This is what he thought government was. This is what he was.
Well, he did say he wanted to be a king.
Right.
Yes. But he also witnessed the French Revolution, which was the leftist revolution to overthrow the French monarchy, which instilled what was called the Reign of Terror. See, the problem is that once the revolutionaries killed the monarchy, they had more bloodlust, and they started killing everybody else.
More vampires?
No, not vampires. Just regular people. Most people.
But I'm saying, in regards to this movie, if this movie were to put that in there.
Well, yeah, but I think that they kind of excuse away the revolutionaries as rightly killing the aristocracy in this movie, because they make a big deal about dragging Marie Antoinette to the guillotine and sort of making that seem like it was like a big moment, which was in history. But
didn't she want cake?
Well, she said something along the lines of let them have bread or something like that. But, it was a tone deaf line because her country and the peasants were starving. And that's what sparked the revolution. But the problem is that the revolution, I mean, the reason we get the terms right and left comes from the French Revolution. The revolutionaries sat on the left side of Parliament, and the traditionalists or the aristocracy sat on the right. And so they became the leftists during the revolutionary, and they had Robespierre, who was killed by his own revolution after they killed the aristocracy. So it's bad all around. It's bad all around.
Well, thank him for his sacrifice.
So basically he threw that shit before he came in the room, and it got him too.
He just said at the bloodlust. So like the bloodlust after it all, they just kept going. They just kept going.
That's what I mean. Like, it's just overkill.
Yep.
Is that why they say the French are so soft now? Because they went too far?
No, I think that's why the French are afraid. The government is afraid of their people. That's for sure. Because the French are not shy about going on strike. And when the French strike, everybody stops working.
Right.
So, yeah.
Like when black people go on break.
Everybody stops working. Jesus.
One person go on cigarette break?
Yeah.
Let's get back to this movie.
Everybody's got an idea, huh?
My bad. So, after Marie Antoinette has her head chopped off, we see him lick the blade. And that is really where we see him diving into this sensation of lust for the blood. Before it was just like, okay, he's a vampire, but now he's made this mistake. He's fed into his own rage and opened up to his animal instincts. And that was something else I thought is maybe it takes to a certain age until the primal side takes over.
Or it could be that he wanted the royal blood in him so that he could now see himself as a royal. Which
Right,
is
'cause
why he kept
he
Marie
kidnapped.
Antoinette's head.
Yeah, I was gonna say he stole her head. So I mean,
He did steal her head, which I thought was
weird.
all around. But I mean, we are talking about a vampire movie. So let's see. He faked his death one time after, what was it? No, he faked his death to get out of there, actually. He faked his
Does
death.
that make sense?
That he faked his death to get out of France?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you could literally just walk away and nobody would notice.
I mean, it is the 1800s.
Soldier, so he had to erase his identity.
No, it wasn't the 1800s. That's before that.
Oh, it was before that. It was this.
So I mean, he literally could have just walked away and nobody would have even known.
Yes, he could have.
No, because he was. Well, no, you're right, because he was just a foot soldier back then, so he wasn't in history. Yeah, I guess so. Guess he.
All he had to do was, "Oh, what's your name, sir? Oh, my name is James."
Smith.
Who would have been different?
I mean, nah, but if
wasn't no national ID.
Wait. It's funny, but it's not, because let's be real. If you knew that you possibly could live forever, why wouldn't you tie up the loose ends when you're moving somewhere else and changing your name?
I'm not talking about right now. Right now, yeah, absolutely. But back then,
at any point,
there's no national ID.
There
was no photographs. There was no IDs.
No.
And he was going to a different country. No, I mean, you don't.
I
There's
can
no loose
write
ends to
out
tie up.
I can write out a whole new birth certificate. Who gonna know the difference?
I'm tying up loose ends.
Okay, plot armor.
Well, you're doing it then.
I'm giving my own eulogy like he did.
Right.
What? No, yeah, that didn't make sense. But I got to defend it because why not?
Plot armor.
You know,
so it was 4 minutes to eat up the time.
Pretty much.
Unnecessary.
This movie does that a lot.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of unnecessary just filmography going on that could have been completely left at the editing floor.
Right. So speaking of stuff that
characters.
Let's skip through some things. So, he vows against revolution. He moves to South America. He becomes a commander. He changes his name to Augusto. He marries Lucia Eriarte. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounced it. My handwriting's not that great. Sorry, guys.
She just goes by Lucia anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He married Lucia. He becomes the general. He overthrows the government in a coup d'etat, which it's just funny. And conquers Chile, essentially, bringing prosperity to all and, setting things straight, becoming richest man in Chile. And eventually, 40 years later, he's a criminal because, that's just how politics work. If you liberate a country and kill a whole bunch of people, the people who are happy about it today, their children are going to be like, yo, he's scary.
Don't you feel like there's like a 200-year gap somewhere in there?
Yes, there definitely is.
From his birth to now, yeah. They skipped like what? I want to say
everything.
Wait, real quick. Let's think about him going from faking his death to becoming the general. How many years do we think passed? I'm thinking easily 100.
Yeah, because he faked his death after the French Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And Pinochet died in the 80s, I think.
No, Pinochet died in 2006, I think.
Oh, okay. He's been much more recent.
Or was that the wife? Either him or the wife. One of them didn't die until 2006.
But he actually says what happens, which is kind of interesting because it's the Chilean perspective. But essentially, he says that the CIA came to him and asked him to buy out the state-owned businesses.
Right.
And he was like, okay. And there's an illusion that he might have been set up financially by, 3-letter agencies.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Christians in arms.
We'll never know.
Yeah, no, that we definitely won't. But he died in 2006. I just looked at it.
Okay.
But yeah, so he begins being treated as a criminal, and at this point, he's faking his death again. And this is one of the funny moments at the beginning of the movie, probably the funniest. He's in his casket. People are coming by, spitting on it. The spit is wiped off, and you see him open his eyes and look around, and then you see a guy kind of lean over and start looking in, and like, "What's his eyes just?" And then they walk away, and then he just settles back in, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Mhm.
And it again, it set me up to think like, oh, I'm gonna get moments like that through this, because that was like in the first 5-10 minutes, but not many of those. At this point, he's decided he really wants to die. He's gonna stop drinking blood. He stopped drinking blood till his heart stopped and all of that, and that's why they had the funeral for everybody to come. But now he's just living in the countryside, slowly not dying.
Basically being old. I don't think that he can die unless he gets a stake to the heart, really.
Right. And apparently, I guess the only person that really understood that is much later in this movie. So let's see. After the funeral, we see him. He's alive. And as we see him alive sitting outside, all of a sudden we see a figure flying. We see what we believe is him flying into modern society and hunting for some hearts. Like what, 5 hearts in one night, was it? Something like that?
Yeah.
Very gruesome murders. Honestly, I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. We got blood, we got flying vampires off
Effortless flying seemed pretty cool the way they did that.
Yeah, I was
with
like,
the
hey,
cape.
this is gonna be crazy. I really thought this was gonna be like, crazy at that point. But
honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of expectations. I tried not to have them.
Right, no, I had no original real expectations, as I was saying earlier. But when I started seeing, like, when we was getting to these parts, I'm like,
right,
this is more than I could have imagined. Yeah. Oh yeah, he goes to modern society. He gets the slaves. He hunts for the hearts, and everywhere he goes, he's just leaving behind empty glasses. And then we see, we meet. His name starts with an F. Help me out, fellas.
Froyo.
Bro, yeah. Oh, Theodore. Why? Hey,
Theodore.
Help me remember.
Yeah.
We meet Theodore, who is the servant / slave of the Count, which is what we call Claude Pinochet and or Augusto Pinochet through this movie, The Count. He brings him his vegetables only meal, and his wife, the Count's wife, that is Lucia, is confused as to what's going on and why he's not dying, because he wants to die. He wants to die so bad, but he's just not. And of course, later on, we see without effort that she's putting blood in his food. So how's he gonna die, crazy lady? Let's see what are we getting into next?
So the idea is that they're sitting, in this desolate sort of deserty area. They're exiled from society. They're this aristocratic family that sort of is now on the outs. And the 5 children of Pinochet and Lucia are going to be coming to visit. And the idea is that they are ready for their inheritance, and they have 2 parents that won't die. Mm-hmm. And they're very upset about that. And to me, I thought that there would probably been a better comedy in that if that was more of the focus of the movie.
Right.
I agree with you.
But the kids kind of take a backseat in this movie, and they're not even really that like
interesting.
Yeah,
they got their 15 minutes. That's it.
Pretty much, yeah. Because I thought that was going to be the major conflict of the movie, is this idea of like everybody's bickering over his money, and then he finally decides, well, I'm not going to die anyway, so screw y'all, I'm out.
And you know what?
They get introduced. What do you say, Mike? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't even hear you. My bad. They get introduced so early in this movie because they're literally the next thing we see the nun who is summoned to the house, which I thought was very interesting. And
confusing, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
You mean confusing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
because I said interesting. Yeah, not interesting.
Right.
Like, oh, I wonder. Like, interesting. Huh?
yeah, they're perfect. They're purposely cryptic about the nun's role in this thing until the reveal at the end, which doesn't really feel like a reveal. It almost feels like, oh, okay,
Oh, the criminal is revealed.
yeah,
Did she look like a little boy to you?
yes,
Okay, just
I
wondering.
say,
Yes.
I thought that was intentional.
maybe.
But for why? That's what I was. Never mind. Okay, go ahead.
What was I saying?
So this nun gets sent over to the house because
Thank you.
we assume that she's trying to do an exorcism.
Yes,
So
she's
that
an exorcist nun.
yes.
Exorcist expert. Exorcism
Yeah,
expert.
the assumption is that the count hired her to come so that they could. Well, okay, so there's like a few expectations here.
Mhm.
There's
Subplot.
they think that the count hired her to exorcise him so that he could die, but the kids also think that she was hired to be the accountant to look for money for
Right.
some reason that they couldn't look for themselves. I
Right.
don't get.
I think it had to do with being lazy, spoiled rich people who don't actually do anything for themselves.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like that's definitely, I'm sure that's part of the critique. But I also felt like, okay, so what is her true purpose? And then you find out her true purpose, and it's like, okay, well, obviously she wasn't there to do the thing that she said she was going to do from jump because she starts
Right.
interviewing people like a cop.
Right.
And I'm thinking to
That was
myself,
weird.
okay, well, if they want to display how stupid these children are, that's fine. But
And they're
why?
very forthcoming.
They're too forthcoming for being the exiled family of a dictator. You
Yeah.
know?
To an auditor.
Where's all your money located? Where do you guys have any offshore accounts?
Oh
Let me
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let me tell you
Where
about
bodies
it.
hidden at? Where they
this is
stinking?
this is super important to the exorcism. I need to know if you guys have any valuable artwork laying around. If you have any
Right.
certificates or bonds, we want to, just good for the
Property.
exorcism. Come
That's
on.
an exorcism.
Because the church wants to steal his money?
Yeah.
Like, what?
I know.
That's
right?
that's the that's
When
the
have
theory.
they
The
ever
church
needed
is trying to
evidence to steal
you.
from people? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I take that back.
But it's true.
I don't want to be excommunicated.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not charitable about the church.
Hey,
But not you. The
So-
movie. The movie is
No,
uncharitable.
I'm questioning who are they trying to take down harder with this movie? Augusto Pinochet or the Catholic Church?
They are equating fascism and Catholicism.
I think so.
I
that's what
won't
it is.
disagree.
Which is the lesser of the two evils type of that's the
Kind of.
question you're left with at the end of this.
But you present them as both terrible. So there you go. Yeah.
I won't disagree with that either.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't disagree.
Yeah. At this point, like literally right now, when we find out he never turned his kids, and
he doesn't want to turn his
natural life. He doesn't turn his wife, right? I start thinking, wait, who is narrating?
I thought that from the very beginning.
Yes, me too. Overly narrating.
They know about the forgotten fortune. They know about his life. They know about the kids. They know about everything. And it's like, wait. How do you know so much? And what made me think it was the narrator had said they never understood what he saw in Lucia. And it's like, wait.
So it's not the one?
That was a personal comment by the narrator. Narrators don't usually say things that interpersonal, like going on.
Right.
There.
But that lets you know that it's not the wife that's narrating.
Correct. Which made me start thinking it was an older version of Carmen.
That's what I thought.
Right. And Carmen is the nun. And I'm bringing up Carmen again. Carmen hasn't even arrived yet, so we don't need to know her name yet. But what we find out is during the dinner that there are hidden documents, a forgotten fortune, and the kids are there because, they want to know what's going on with who went hunting for the hearts, because it must be you, Dad. And why are you doing it? Because you said you were going to die. But at the same time, they want to know about this mystery forgotten fortune, because apparently they know they can inherit a couple of million each. They just don't understand why they're not being told where it's at and when they're going to get it.
Yeah, they're just waiting around for their father to die, and he's been a vampire for so long that they're all in their 50s now.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
And they're just rubbing their hands together, hoping that he dies soon. And then I think that they're upset that he's not dead yet. And so, you know, I mean, to be fair, he does say that he wants to die, which I don't think is true at all at any point.
He's a drama queen.
Yeah, he just wanted the attention. He just wanted people to come over and visit him, to be honest.
Yeah. Hear a tirade of I love yous, except from his wife.
Yeah. But yeah, so his kids are all champing at the bit to take his money. And that's why they quote unquote hire the nun to do an exorcist and a financial audit.
And then the daughter is all explaining that the nun is a friend of hers, which was confusing. Like she knew her personally.
I thought they were going somewhere else with that.
Right. Yeah. And then she's like, I'm nasty, like really, really nasty. I was like,
oh yeah, that's what this is about.
So is this a confession too?
I think a lot of the things about the kids was really, like we kind of alluded to already, to just paint like, oh, they're the seed of this evil being. So, you know, they have their own vile ways, you know.
I don't even know that vampires can have babies.
Excuse me?
I didn't even know vampires could have babies.
And
this is apparently the only lure where they can.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why I go back to that Chilean thing. Maybe this is their version.
This is their version, yeah. And mind you, this is
no, you guys, you forgot. The children aren't fascists.
Ooh.
Oh, aren't they?
No, they're the product of.
Yeah, they're just trust fund kids.
Yeah.
Who know where the bodies are
sins of the father should not affect the child to such levels, Michael.
The mother probably knows where the bodies are hidden, but she's been wanting to be a fascist. But
she wants to be she wants to be a monster.
But remember, the mother is a monster already. That's why he won't turn her, because she's the one who's ordered all of the murders and killings. So she knows where the bodies are because they're her bodies. He just carried it out.
Yeah, true.
He's the tool.
He's the gun. She's the finger.
There you go. That's a great way to put it.
Yep.
So we also find out that his most loyal servant, the butler or the slave Theodore, is also a vampire who has been turned because of his loyal service. We find this out because he has a secret lair in the bottom of the barn, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, if everybody knows, why are you hiding?
Right. It's not even really a secret.
Yeah. And yeah. So we find out that he's actually the one going for the hearts. He's the one that went hunting the other day. He's the one who brought all the attention to the home and brought the kids to the island. And he did that for his love, Lucia, because that vile, wretched, nasty woman is sleeping with the help. Not because he's the help is the problem. It's because he's supposed to also be the best friend. The only guy that's ever been there for him for hundreds. Well, I guess 250. He's only been there for 100, but still.
No, he's only like 60 years old.
The butler?
Yeah. He's not that old.
He's over a century old at least.
No,
he's not even from there. So that means
he's
are you sure?
Russian. He's Russian.
Right.
So he had to meet him later, but he had to meet him long ago enough for him to be around. Because remember, he was saying that all of the money and the files came before him, but he was still the one who put them away. He was still the one who hid them all.
Anyways.
He's been around a while.
Okay.
And wait. Also, remember, eating the fresh hearts keeps them young.
No,
kind of.
I think
not really.
Eating vampire hearts makes them young.
Yeah.
No,
eating regular hearts keeps them alive.
The way it was explained, because I remember here, but the way I remember it being explained, because the blood keeps them alive. Apparently, the hearts help them rejuvenate, because that's what she was explaining early, right?
Right.
And then the vampire hearts help them rejuvenate at an accelerated rate.
Yes,
makes them young again.
Which is true, but the hearts that they're eating haven't shown them, except for the slight sort of improvement of El Conde. You don't really see them rejuvenate because the butler doesn't age backwards, and he's been drinking all of the hearts. So.
Yeah, right. But that's why I figured he stays that age.
They said the hearts of young virile women does the best for them as far as keeping them healthy.
Yeah.
But when they eat vampire hearts, they can get young again.
Uh-huh.
They say that towards the end, though.
Yeah, that's literally he
maybe
becomes
that's
a
the
child.
most interesting part is breaking down how their food chain works.
There's a lot of questions left unanswered.
Well, because even remember that he was talking about the frozen hearts are like they're kind of like gross. It's like
They're rotten.
Right.
now,
It's dead blood.
yeah,
Yeah.
which that made perfect sense.
Because in the Anne Rice universe, it's almost like poison.
Yeah.
Dead blood, I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Well, for the audience more so.
So while the daughter and Carmen, after Carmen gets there to the home, while the daughter and Carmen are talking, they talk about how possession comes about and how possession can come to a warrior or someone from the war field, the battlefield, through a wound and or
butt sex.
And
I didn't understand why that needed to even be in there, but I think that's one of those dry jokes that we didn't really.
That is, I believe, like I think that's a Catholic joke actually.
Yeah, I think it could have been one of those dry jokes like Mike said, but I also think that it's sort of setting up the Catholic Church to be anti-left.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, there were moments in the movie where they gilded back to it when the Count and Theodore are having a discussion. He's talking about when he turned them, and he's like, you enjoyed this, and telling me how he enjoyed killing and all of that. But he's like, then why did you drop your trousers when I turned you? Like,
yeah, I thought that was weird.
Well, no, I think it was to prove the theory of what the nun was talking about, or what Carmen was talking about. People really believed, hey, if that's what I got to do,
the devil got in through his butt.
Yeah,
that's literally what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a foreign concept, Alistair.
No, I know.
But anyway, I'm not saying we gotta agree or believe in anything. I'm just saying that's what's out there. So
moving right along.
Carmen passes off as an accountant, and this is again where we all got really confused as like, oh, you're an accountant, oh, but you're also a nun, oh, but you're also a spy, oh, but you're also
an exorcist,
oh, but you're also a whore.
I mean,
yes. What is going on with that character? She was all over the place.
Well, she was.
She
like
breaks up a happy home and a marriage. Like,
she's like this calculating spy, but also a very scared exorcist, even though she's supposed to be the best. But when she does her exorcism, she's like shaking and freaking out. But she's also seduced by a 70-year-old, 80-year-old vampire. And then
250-year-old
is totally cool with becoming a vampire, but then wants to kill him.
And she admitted she enjoyed fostering confusion and chaos.
Right.
Like,
so that's just the writer's.
That's the devil.
No, that's just the writer's explanation for a bad character.
Right. Because that is literally the opposite of what a nun is supposed to be. Because
1,000%.
The devil is the author of confusion.
She stopped it. Yeah, exactly. She stopped being the moment those tears streamed down her face.
Well, there is definitely a sentiment in South America about the power the Catholic Church has over indigenous ways of knowing. And so I think that every chance they get, they're going to paint Catholicism in a negative light. Because that's the left-wing mindset.
So I get that there are way easier ways to do it than this.
Oh, they are, but it's not artsy. So, this movie has positioned itself sort of as like a left-wing movie, right? I think it's fair to say that the movie doesn't want you to sympathize with the fascists,
right?
And kind of wants you to sympathize with the leftists, right?
Yeah. I refuse.
I think it's dumb no matter what, but
right. This is also the point in the movie where I realized, like, oh, okay, they're trying to see which side you're going to land on, but at the same time, let you know that all sides are the same. Carmen and the Count start flirting with one another, but in a very contextual way while they're doing their interview. I mean, from the very beginning, when she walked in and they start speaking French to one another, it's like, I don't think anybody called a French nun here specifically. Like,
And I don't think any of them speak French.
They don't.
Mm-mm.
It didn't seem that way. From the mother to the children, all the way to Theodore, it didn't seem like anyone except those two spoke French, which had me very.
And he didn't see that as
concerned.
suspicious.
Don't be what?
Him.
No, because he's horny, and
Yeah, he's a whore.
he just wants to get in her pants, so he doesn't care.
Oh, you didn't see that little pink thing hanging out the whole time?
Wait, what?
Yikes! Never mind. I don't want
to. Don't ruin another movie for me, sir.
No, not reality. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to repeat it. It was just figure of speech.
Oh. I was about to say, like I'm never rewatching this.
Panting like a bear, like he was chomping at the bit the whole time.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, he's a dude, a weird dude, but a dude.
That's a fair point.
Who likes women who look like little boys?
No, this is modern times. That's not a fair point. He has to do better.
Yeah, he like the chick who looks like a little boy.
So we find out that the Count's fallen in love. And instead of going to dinner, he upstairs on the treadmill trying to get his heart rate up.
Right.
Something to live for again.
And I couldn't figure out what that was.
Right. Carmen's just lurking through everywhere. He visits her quarters and she invites him in and he falls back on his ass because, old man.
I didn't understand that. Did I miss something with that scene?
He can't get it up.
No, it's just it's solidifying the idea that he needs to be young again. Because he can't, be fallen over at the doorstep of the girl that he's trying to woo.
Right.
So that's him making his mind up that he wants to go back to being a young.
And that's vampire. Right, because I know right after that is when he started going out hunting again on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She basically goes taking pictures of everybody and everything, and he goes hunting.
Puts a whole dossier together.
Interviews everybody, my God, asking for their mother's maiden name and the last 4 digits of their social. I mean, geez Louise.
And they're giving it.
Yeah, freely.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense.
I like how Theodore catches...
After they also say, when they find out, they also say that they're under investigation.
Yeah.
So
you just giving up all of this under investigation still, huh?
Yeah.
Bet she ain't spying on y'all.
Right.
Theodore and the Count have a discussion, and the Count basically tells them, "Hey, you can have my wife. I already know you can have her." Like, "No, sir, I've never lain with her." Yeah, all right.
Well, now you can. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, whatever.
I'm over it.
He's traded up.
Right. But what's also funny to me, when they have that moment right before he takes off, and they have this thing where it's like, but if you want me to kill her, sir, I do it for you. Like the way Theodore was kind of staring off at him, like,
because he enjoys killing.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was like, so do you want me to? I like killing still.
And ultimately, he had a thing for the Count, is what it kind of boils down
that's
to.
What I think it all came down to. Yeah, I think that was the undertone to their situation.
Yeah. And I don't know if they actually did anything, but it's kind of implied that they probably did.
I'm about to say, apparently they probably did, because I'm getting the notion that the Count gets what he likes you and he wants you.
He was French.
Booty is like water. It's like air.
It's like air. More important than so. What we find out, basically, he has all these kids as he's hunting. One kid wants him dead. Most of them, well, all of them want money. Carmen just keeps prying, and they're saying all these different things. She's making accusations against their father. Ain't nobody defending him. Some of them actually want him to live, but
I think just the one.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, none of them know him. They're all delusional, and they're all freaking simpletons. Like, individually, not even collectively. Like, they're individually their own level of simpleton.
Right.
Yeah, they're all
I absolutely agree.
And if anything, that's probably the closest thing to affluence that you see in this movie, is just this blindness to understand how terrible these things are. You know everything that happened, and you still don't understand how terrible they were.
Affluenza.
Papa. Yeah. You know a kid's rich when they say papa.
That's a fact. That is that is universal.
Mm-hmm.
That is universal. But yeah, no matter what he did, right or wrong, it's their dad. The murdering, the thieving, the lust, it just didn't matter. So also, I don't think they believe that anything he did was wrong, especially the one who was talking about, if a king conquers, then he deserves the right to ransack and be like, what the hell? What?
It was funny how he was so offended by the idea of being called a thief, and then later on in the movie, he's like, "Yeah, I kind of was a thief." He just kind of accepts it when
He was
the butler
offended
calls
by
him a
them
thief.
calling him a thief.
He didn't want other people saying it.
No, he didn't want the Chileans, the people he liberated in his mind, to be the ones to call him a thief because he felt they owed him. How can I be a thief to you when you owe me?
Right. And then he's all offended by it, but then later on, it's just like he kind of accepts it. Like, yeah,
Because he
I did
knows
like
what
the
he
stealing
is.
because the
But he's
stealing
being
was
called
kind of
that by
fun.
someone but he's being called it at that point by someone he sees as an equal or contemporary. He's not some he doesn't view, even though he's a slave and a servant, he doesn't view him as the gum on the bottom of his shoe like he views the people.
Well, he doesn't need to defend himself against to humans. He's speaking to one of his kind.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as they said, she thinks the devil's inside of me and she wants to get it out. And it's like, there's nothing inside of me. There's nothing inside of me neither. I actually thought that was a funny moment. Gross, but funny.
It was funny. Yeah. She thought that she was going to be able to exorcise him and it just didn't do anything.
Yeah, nothing. Like, he really was like, okay, so come here.
Well, I guess she did kind of exercise him a little bit.
Well,
hold on.
She exercised the one muscle.
That's right.
We almost there. But yeah, she definitely did that. She gave him the round he needed.
Really?
But
it's pretty angular to me.
We find out that he has a bunch of memorabilia and stuff, and even the kids know of that. But we also find out that Theodore is kind of like a special kind of evil. Like, considered the master of torture. He taken out full droves of people with his bare hands, apparently, back during whatever piece of war he was in during Russia, or in Russia, excuse me.
Oh, he was a Bolshevik, the Bolsheviks or whatever.
He killed the Bolsheviks, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we find all of that out about him, and he killed the people so that the general would come. I mean, the general's kids would come and they would try to take him out, as I kind of alluded to a little earlier. Let's see. Carmen gets into the cellar at this point. I'm like, how did she find that? That was crazy.
Right. That just happens.
Right. But Theodore discovers all of her paper. This is when everything starts to unravel. Like, he's finding her paperwork. She's getting all of her stuff ready to go and exorcise the Count. As we said, she exorcised him for sure, but not in the way she thought she was going to. And
but it wasn't hidden.
What wasn't hidden?
Her evidence. It was just sitting there.
Because that's what she wanted them to find.
But why?
Because the stuff she wanted to hide was hidden.
So there was false evidence?
I don't think she was necessarily trying to hide anything from them, but what she needed to get out of there with is what she was worried about holding on to. You can find out.
I don't think the movie considers this at all. I think it's just another reason for the circumstances to shift. They find the evidence because the movie needs them to find the evidence.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it was sitting on the bed and then because I know she needed to find the bear bonds and the property stuff so that she could give it to the church so they could extort it from him or something like that, or blackmail him with it. But then all the actual true evidence was just sitting out to be found.
Right. You know what I just thought about? What if what they tried to say was, which is what we're getting at, after they have sex, she exercises his muscle, he bites her. What if after he bites her, she gets some of his memories and starts to remember where the bonds are? And that's how she...
No,
I hope not.
There's no indication that this movie has anything like that going on.
Because that would be garbage. She immediately changed after he bit her, and she's flying around. She's all super like, dang, at least take a nap.
Honestly, her character's so useless. She makes no impact on the story whatsoever.
If you cut out everything involving her or referencing her, the movie would still it would be in the same place.
It would.
As
Absolutely.
Nick said, I still agree this movie should have been about the kids.
Yeah.
No, absolutely agree. That would have made for more interesting storytelling.
Take Carmen and Lucia out and give us a different narrator. All three of them can go.
Yep. Lucia's fine because I like the idea of the wife either wanting to be turned or,
right.
She's
like a background character, and she kind of stays background.
Well, yeah, because I guess she is the mom, and it's 5. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
That, and there would have been an interesting dynamic between her wanting the wealth and then the kids wanting the wealth, because they even say to her, like, oh, you haven't died yet either. You're close to, like, we're waiting for you to go. So it would have been interesting to see a dynamic where she has to go against the kids, or maybe teams up with the Count to go against the kids. Whatever.
Well, once the Count is out the way, she's just a regular person. So
right.
Yeah.
A pillow and some effort, and that's it.
True.
Right. Theodore tells the family of everything he found. They all agree she's a criminal. Why did we invite her here? We should not have brought her to kill Papa. It was
right.
Weird. It was weird. They didn't say any of those things.
Didn't they want her to kill him anyway? I mean,
yes. The whole plan was that she was going to absolve him or exorcise him, and then he would be dead.
And if he didn't die that way, I'll just put a plastic bag over his head.
So you're surprised he's a thief? I mean, she's a thief?
No.
She's a whole murderer.
They're surprised.
God, just take her out of the movie, and there's all of these stupid things would be gone.
Yeah, because she's a lot of the part of stupid in this movie. What they thought was, I don't know, because it doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't make sense. The entire motive is very strange. I mean, the fact that she wanted to get bitten too. Why?
Oh, I think she was a fanatic. I think she knew who he was all the time. I think that when she got sent there, she couldn't plan to go there. But when she knew she was being sent there, it was like, oh, basically because of her love and her infatuation with God, getting close to this beast, so to speak, or this vampire is the closest to God she'll ever get. It's like God on earth.
Well, I kind of can see the rationale you're trying to get to, because he's the closest thing to God, because he's the devil.
Yeah.
He's the devil incarnate, or the closest thing to the devil, which is more in proximity to God than anything that she can ever hope to experience.
Yeah.
Except outside of dying and actually meeting God.
Right. Well, also keep in mind what we find out, what we're about to bring up.
Well, why does she want to kill him afterwards?
Did she?
Yeah. She takes the stake up against him.
That was her job. And that was the weird part.
So she has sex with him.
You realize later, like, oh, wait, so your job was to kill him. Why did you get turned?
Because of reasons? Plot armor. I don't know.
Reason.
Okay, hold on. It's either quicksand, rabies, or plot.
I was sitting here thinking it could be rabies.
In this particular case, it could be Strigoli.
Strigoli, yeah. They just had to name drop that one.
They had to.
Yeah.
They had to make us feel better after the name they dropped before that.
That's true.
And I was sitting here, Strigoi. I was sitting here thinking, like, so what? The strain's involved now? Bringing a whole another universe of vampires into this.
Basically, yeah.
The germ,
the original. But yeah, Lucia wants to kill everybody at this point. Like, she just mad now, so she tells Theodore, "You got to go kill them." And he's like, "Let me turn you." And she's like, "No." And he take it. I'm gonna bite you anyway.
Bitch, I'm gonna take it anyway.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
wow.
Yeah, exactly. But that fits his character.
Well, and I mean,
so go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say he admitted to roasting women's breasticles.
Yeah.
So I mean, why not take a bite?
It also really doesn't make sense, because the wife's whole ambition is to get bitten, and then when he offers to bite her, she's like, "No, don't bite
because
me."
Because he's a peasant.
Because yes, exactly.
She's a peasant.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but she don't see it that way no more.
Right, but why would getting bit by the Count be better for you than getting bit by the butler?
If it was a different vampire universe, that would make sense.
It would
it
if
would,
he
but
was
I think she
if
just
you were enthralled to them, but you're not.
Right.
you're not. Yeah, I think she just simply viewed him as a higher person. Like he's
Yeah,
better
but
than
he's literally said I'm not gonna do it like multiple times, and her
Yeah.
whole thing is I want to become a vampire too. So why don't just take the butler on his offer?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know
it
why.
happens anyways.
My
So
brain,
I mean,
my brain
if the
don't work that
butler,
way.
if it works the way they're making it seem, she could have got bit by the butler and just took off and lived her best life
yes,
anywhere else. She
Which is
didn't
what he
have to
said they
stick
were
around.
committed to do. He was
right.
fine. Take her.
They
Right.
could have, yeah, they could have gone and lived happily ever after in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
She could have went off by herself. Because all she had to do was make herself young again.
True.
No argument
And
with
she could have
that.
lived her best life. She could have went legit, got young, got with a young, successful, rich dude, and disappeared off of the whole radar of dictators and all that weirdness, and still lived like a queen.
But that was her dream. That was her life, bro.
Okay.
He was a regular general. He wasn't trying to overthrow governments till he got with her.
Yeah, so she can find another simp to do that too.
I
Right.
get you on that part. And I think
'Cause
that's all she
she
wanted
coulda-
was to become a vampire so she could become young again.
She could have become a vampire, got young, and then zoomed off to go bite Steve Jobs. And
Hey,
been
hold on, player. We ain't endorsing no women just hating out on men because they feel like they can do it. What
they
we
doing
doing?
it anyway. What you
we
mean?
doing?
They doing it anyway.
Who is you?
Me, single.
Fair.
That's a fair point. All right. I have nothing. I have no comeback for that, you know?
He's got real life plot armor right now. This man can't be touched.
I'm just saying.
So then we see a lady come in and she lands, and we don't know who she is, but we find out very, very quickly, even though she kind of looks like a young Lucia, but we find out that her name is Margaret. And she's been our narrator the whole time.
I
And
go by many names.
This is the part in the movie where I really kind of checked out, to be fair.
This is the part of the movie where you flip the fucking table over. That's right. First F-bomb.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
There you go.
Just gonna run through it.
1 hour in, you're good. Don't worry.
Margaret's been our narrator. She's the Count's first love. She was a French vineyard worker who was snatched up by a guy who came in town and raped the young worker. And his name was Strigoi. And she got pregnant with a child. And then she left that child to be an orphan. And she looked for that child for years and couldn't find him. And now she had found the child much later as he was the ruler of Chile.
Even though he was in the same orphanage for like 20 years?
20 years, yeah. Go back to where you left him, lady.
Right.
You didn't look that hard, I don't think.
No, she didn't.
But yeah, we basically find out that his mother is Margaret Thatcher and his dad is Strigoi. And all right, now that we let that breathe.
Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, we let it breathe. Now we gotta let it breathe longer now.
I mean, what?
That came out of so far out of left field. I was like, wait a minute, what did they say her name was?
It did, but you know what it is? Like, according, like, if I'm thinking the way the movie is thinking, then his uncle should just be Hitler. And they should all just have a family reunion of fascists. Fascist vampires.
Work for Hitler?
Stalin was his uncle.
No, she was the prime minister of England.
Right.
But she's seen as a labor buster back in the day. So during the communist movements in the union strikes and stuff, she was a big strike buster or union buster.
Of the other Margaret. Sorry.
Yeah.
Who sang her?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
no, that's a different monster.
I wait, yeah, you weren't even supposed to say the last name. That's why I just said the other Margaret.
That's the other fascists.
The other
on the other side.
She was a genocidal. Never mind. Okay, let's move.
Yep.
So Margaret lands, and we find out that she had been impregnated by Strigoi, and she is the mother of the Count. We also discovered that she won't Carmen dead because Carmen wasn't supposed to become one of them, and I'm older than you, so do what I say and kill that one.
Right. That
How
didn't
did
make
she
sense.
know?
He
She's
said no.
watching.
How's she watching?
Oh,
Plot.
because
Okay.
she always knew who and where he was, and I guess she just that strong.
Well,
Okay,
the first
maybe
time
it's
they
like a
met.
True Blood thing.
Well, remember she said they first met when they were in talks with when he was in talks with England, and that's why she kind of got him a pass on the investigation stage from being a dictator. And she said when she first saw him, she recognized him immediately, but he didn't know who she was. And I'm like, how?
How would he know who she was?
How would she know who he was when she
Because she
abandoned
could
him?
sense he's a vampire.
Even
She was
still,
bitten by an original, so she would probably be stronger.
He should be able to sense that too.
right?
Then.
I
If
agree.
that's the case, but she
agree.
she recognized who he was as her son.
Right.
Yeah.
As an
That doesn't make
80-year-old
any
man.
sense.
Maternal instincts.
Keelan.
Listen here, player.
Come on, man.
Don't get mad because I got an answer.
Bro, you were just talking about how you got
a
a head rush from stretching. You're going to throw your back out with all of those gymnastics.
No.
over there.
I don't think it's much of a stretch if I'm being honest.
Okay.
I don't agree that that's what they were thinking, but I don't think it's much of a stretch.
All right.
Stop making their movie better.
No. It's fun to me.
No. He will always improve upon.
Every single time. Because if
yeah.
not, this shit gets boring fast.
It's true. It does. It definitely does.
So
Margaret Thatcher comes to save the day.
And the family plans now at this point to kill everybody because Lucia is a vampire. Frodo, what is his name?
Froyo.
Theodore
is a
Theodore
vampire.
Baggins.
Carmen,
Yes.
right? Carmen is a vampire. The Count is a vampire. They don't even know Margaret there. Margaret's a vampire, so they think it's them against foe. No, it's 5-on-5. Square up, player. What you got for me?
And for some reason, they had a rolling pin with nails sticking out of it already ready to go.
Because
where'd that come from?
Okay, so I don't think you guys realize
What are you making with that?
They went into an armory.
But why was it a rolling pin with nails in it?
Because you have a torture master as the butler.
Oh, okay. Getting a little
That's
shiatsu.
true.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. You're getting the shiatsu massage with the nail rolling pin.
No.
I'm gonna pass on that one, but I understand.
I'm simply saying Theodore had some weapons tucked away, and when they went looking through
Agreed.
the armory and stuff, they found some things. Because they had like 2 different types of scythes.
As if they were ever gonna kill vampires.
Or even try.
Or they didn't even try. They just kind of stood there with the weapons in their
I wanted
hands.
them to at least chase down Margaret and not Margaret, excuse me, Carmen.
Yeah, Carmen gets got by Froyo.
Right. When she was stumbling
She
across,
gets the
and she just sat there. She knew what was about to happen. She just went on with it. Okay.
She just went with the Marie Antoinette and just let it happen. Like, why? What? Why?
I think that was a tilt towards like
she wasn't even tied up.
Right.
I think that's a tip towards women who are in love with evil men.
I'm throwing my phone across the street.
Yeah, I think you can't keep making excuses. No
I
way. No. It's not a metaphor. It's just bad writing. They needed to get rid of people, and they just decided that this was the time everybody's getting got.
I agree with that. Yeah, basically, so they kill Carmen. Theodore beheads Carmen. Lucia is killed by the Count. The Count beheads Theodore.
Wait. I thought wasn't that Theodore who killed the wife?
No,
the Count kills the wife.
Oh, right, because he used the sword.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay.
And then Theodore, for some reason, runs away from Hatcher and the Count, and then goes and kills Carmen as if it was like some sort of revenge. But the Count was like, "You did me a favor."
Basically, because he was going to have to kill all 3 of them at that point, and I'm sure that's what he was being told.
And then he just turns himself over to be murdered by the Count.
I didn't even put that together. It was a revenge thing for kill.
Yeah,
this movie was so kind of convoluted towards the end that I just kind of.
You didn't see his face and the way he.
It didn't register. It was more like, is this over yet?
Well, why would the Count be bothered by that? He just like Carmen just tried to stake him.
I don't think they know that.
The Count knows that Carmen tried to stake him.
The Count knows. Fyodor
Yeah.
doesn't know that.
Okay, I guess. Then
I
why
don't
did
think-
he kill Fyodor?
Because Fyodor
Just
is a traitor.
I guess.
Because they
Okay.
needed all the vampire hearts to get young again.
There
That's
it
the
is.
ultimate plot point.
That's what it was.
That's
Thank
the-
you. Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
That's
right.
the,
Plot.
these were all vehicles to get to that place.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
Because the plot, excuse me, the Count and his mother, after they burn everybody, so the Count, Margaret, all the kids, they get all the vampire bodies and a bunch of wood and they burn them, just have a bonfire. After that, you see the kids pretty much take everything they can't, but that's not bolted down because they ain't get nothing. And Pops
Man.
and
I said, man, they took everything. They even took some of the floorboards came up missing.
Yep.
Straight up. We see the Count and Margaret, they just walk away from it. They're like, Papa. He ain't listening to them.
Well, they took all the only things that were of actual value, and that was the historical journals and books.
That's where they went off to get all of the memorabilia.
Because they never understood what was actually valuable as far as what he owned.
Which is why he never gave them anything, because he said they never figured it out. They were stupid. He knew his kids were dumb.
Yeah.
Which means he was a bad parent, not just that's not on their capability.
Right. You made them dumb.
Which is also why he never turned any of them, because the aptitude, what does it take to succeed as one of us in this world? You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna go with that because he was a special French nobody. There's no evidence that he had any real aptitude. He figured it out over time.
Yeah.
Time is the great educator.
Why let bigger simpletons destroy the world that I've created?
He created nothing.
No, he didn't really create anything.
Created the world for himself. He just fell through.
Nah, he didn't create anything. He killed, he murdered, and just took advantage, but he didn't create.
The world he created for himself.
He can recreate, and anybody can recreate when they have that kind of power.
Lived on the whole damn island.
Y'all are feisty today. Y'all having some disagreements here.
God dang you. My bad.
That's all right. So they drink.
I was going too far over here. I forgot where I was.
It makes for good TV.
It does.
The memorabilia.
They drink the vampire
that's not bolted down.
Yeah.
We see them take the vampire hearts and blend them up, and they chug those down. And then we see a boatload of nuns heading over to the island after we see the kids leave. The island's gone. It's empty. There's nothing there inside or outside. But then we see the Count has been rebirthed as a child coming down a slide because drinking all of those hearts rejuvenated him and it reverted him back to his youth. So now he's a school-aged child again. His mother is, only in her 30s or so now, raising him once again, and he wanted to stay in Chile. So that's where they are. Is it Chile or Chile?
Chile. And he says that's where all the leftists are, so he doesn't want to leave. And
yeah, basically they all. Yeah.
Now he's gonna go fight leftists as a 10-year-old.
Right. I'm gonna say people who he want to take out. It's weird. It's like
very strange.
It's strange.
Why would he want to go back to being a little kid with a mommy?
Because he's a weirdo.
Because he was an orphan.
No, I get that.
Real life now. And because he can become a kid and do it all over again.
Yeah, this is his third or second reboot. So he'll just, they'll hang out with it. He'll hang out with his mom for a little while. They'll probably get tired of each other, and then he'll go do something else.
Yeah.
You think she kills him?
He'll become future Hitler.
Right. She might, around 15, he might get out of pocket.
Yeah.
These damn teenagers.
Fun.
We have finally arrived.
Dun, dun, dun.
Somehow, some way. Yeah.
This actually took a lot longer than I thought it would.
Yeah. Because there's so much you can skip.
And we did.
A lot. We did skip a lot. Yeah.
Skipped a whole lot. I think I skipped 2 pages of my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you did well.
telling you, bro, like the notes were in depth for this one because it wasn't that long, but it was so much like the flashbacks and the information and making it make sense, like the puzzle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
So who where we at with it? We doing
Ratings.
all right. So I guess I can go first. Shoot, you know what I mean? I've been trying to put that off on other people the last few episodes. Like, hey, who's going first? I'll do it. Me.
Okay.
It was me. It was on this day that I had the thought. No, so I didn't dislike this movie. I didn't love this movie. I might even watch this again. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of those. Again, when I say that, for the record, I usually mean like a month or two down the road, not like tomorrow or anything. But this is one of those where I could sit with somebody who hasn't seen it and just be like
Compare
all right,
notes
like
right after.
so what'd you think it is? Like, what did I miss something, or can I fill you in on something, right? Film, as far as the cinematography, there were some of the scenes because of the black and white where I realized like this is a movie much better viewed in total darkness. This is not a it's hardly I can't say it's not because I watched it in the daytime, but this is hardly a daytime watch or view simply because of the light, like the lighting of the black and white and them having this gray tone to even the black and white. So it was even darker than that regular black and white. It wasn't like Andy Griffin's bright black and white, right?
No, high contrast.
Right. So that's something worth noting. The sound and all of that, I had no issue with. For me, I'd love to know how you guys felt about that. But as already said, the story was everywhere, but it still came full circle. They wrapped it up somehow, some way, whether we like the way they did it or even makes sense. Outside of that, it still ended, and it ended in a spot where you can go, oh, okay, I see how they did that. That still stands in line with everything else we got. So can't say I hate it. Can't say I love it. I'm gonna give this a 5. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll go next.
Do it.
I'm gonna start off by saying, because I'm not gonna be as long-winded about it, I'm gonna give it a 6.
Oh, snap. All right.
No, that wasn't a shot. I'm gonna give it a 6. Because it was decent. Like I said, I was entertained, but I was confused. Cinematography, I watched it at 3:00 in the morning, so that all that contrasting in the black and white, it left nothing on me.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't affect me at all. I didn't care for any of the sound. It wasn't like it was hard to hear. I mean, I liked the fact that it was in English at first, and then when it switched to Spanish, I was like, oh, gotta read. But then I said, okay, forget it. No, why? I watch enough anime to let that slide. But it was just all the confusing stuff with the unnecessary characters. I mean, Carmen's unnecessary. Margaret Thatcher absolutely makes no sense. That came completely out of left field. This movie is held together by the stitchings of plot armor, and that's pretty much it. But it's not terrible. It's just we've definitely watched way worse. I mean, way worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I stick with my rating, and that's where I'm at, and that's why.
Fair
It's
enough.
more wind than you thought it was gonna be, wasn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie isn't terrible by any stretch. I think that I can agree with you guys on that. I found the story to be lacking and overly bloated. Again, I think you could take Carmen out of the equation completely, and that would have been fine. A story centered around an aging vampire and how his money will be bequeathed to his ungrateful children was an interesting enough premise for me already. I didn't need the add-on of the nun seductress spy accountant woman. Margaret Thatcher is a weird choice, but it's not really weird when you when you take the attitude that the filmmakers or the message seems to take, which is that she's also a fascist. So of course she would be related to the fascist from Chile. I think it's kind of trite and it doesn't add to the story whatsoever. So it can be removed from the story, but I understand their sort of comparison there. The black and white is fine. I think that people who think that black and white is equals good rely too heavily on it, and then it becomes like, all right, well, yeah, of course your shot's going to look pretty in high contrast black and white, but that's not anything you did. That's just because you made it in high contrast black and white. So yeah, I think it's an okay movie. It's not terrible, but it's not something I'd be interested in watching again. It's an interesting take on a vampire flick. I wish that they kind of had done a little bit more with that. That would have been cool. Again, I think that the movie really just gets derailed with Carmen's character, and I would have liked a little bit more focus on the family and maybe even more backstory, because there was about 100 and something years that we didn't get anything about the
Right.
El Conde. So yeah, I'm thinking it's a 5 for me. This is middle of the road. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, and yeah, so 5.
Yes, indeed. Well, that gives us 16 out of 30, which is a
That's
5-1.
like a 5.333
Yeah,
or
something like that.
whatever.
Is that like a
It's
C?
a 5, screw it.
C minus?
Yeah, it's
minus.
about. I think it's about average. I don't think that there's any new ground being, revealed here, and I don't think that it's funny enough for me to bump it up higher than that. Like the idea that it's considered a satire, I get, but you would kind of expect satires to be more farcical,
Comical,
and this really, you'd be taking great liberties by calling this like a funny movie. Because
I'm thinking, depending on what political persecution looks like in Chile, depending on what their laws are like, maybe they can't even speak out on the regime in a certain way. This could be towing the line of revolution in itself with the movie, just based on what we don't know,
Certainly, yes. And of course, there is context there that, if you're not familiar with the political issues that Chile has had over the decades, then yes, I think that certain things would fall flat for you in this movie. And as, I think we can all speak from our Americans' perspective, we don't know very much about the internal politics of Chile. So some references were probably not picked up by us.
Right.
Yeah.
Not because we don't care, just because we don't know.
Just because we don't know. So.
But yeah, my bad.
You messed it all up, Keelan. What the hell?
Knocked it offline.
Shame.
Misfortune.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so with
Shame.
that being said, again,
Shame.
My goodness.
5-point change. That is where we are set with the movie El Conde, which is again currently on Netflix. You can go ahead and check that out. We appreciate you guys. We honestly do. If this is your first time, it's time for me to let you know. Go ahead and take a look at your screen, because this is when you get to see all of the shows that we have, the cacophony of podcasts. As you'll see, Podemonium is what we bring to you on a weekly basis. You can always tune in to any of your favorite apps, favorite sites, wherever you watch, listen, go ahead and check that out. I know a lot of the platforms we use. I'll give you the list of platforms and the list of shows. The platforms we use for our shows are YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble. Oh, also, and Spotify. Go ahead and check us out on all of those. Not that everyone will be everywhere, but if you type in the name, you never know what you'll find. Go ahead and check out these podcasts. The names are If Numbers Could Talk, Screen Time Continuum. That's where you are right now. Thanks again for tuning in. Strawberries and Coffee, King_of_Ilion, Exo Fathom, and This Married Moment. We appreciate you guys for hanging out. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, telling everybody. See, hanging out, tuning in aren't the same. I think that through. But let your friends know. Drop a comment, drop a share, hit that like button, follow, subscribe, comment, follow, subscribe, all of those things. And we appreciate you. We will see you.
Like and subscribe.
for our next episode, which will be on Sunday. Thanks a lot. And for the Screen Time Continuum, my name is Keelan.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Mike.
Even though his face says El Conde.
El Conde.
I did think the glasses thing was
Just
cool,
call
too.
me El Conde.
Nacho.